All right, this is a reminder. We're kind of packed on time because we all love to talk about garden activities. So we're going to hold the questions until the end, and hopefully you all got a handout. There's a general outline on there, and then there's also some of the links and things we put on there. So you don't have to be writing copious notes. This will be more of a time to observe. So I'm Jennifer Clommer. I am a master gardener. I did the training in 2011, and that opened up huge opportunities for a lot of different things. I was approached soon after that at the Giving Garden at the church I belong to at Shepherd of the Valley Lutheran Church. There's now 31 raised beds, and we donate a bulk of the produce to the St. Vincent de Paul food bank at St. Mary's Church. And we donated over 1,500 pounds this last year, all volunteer run. The bulk of my kid experience is with the 4-H Garden Gnomes, which is a horticulture and beekeeping club. I don't do the beekeeping side, I do the plant stuff. And I've been doing that for over 10 years. And the other kid activities I've done at Benton County Master Gardeners was with Seed to Supper, and that was a beginning gardening class, and we had kids grow class as well. In my own yard, I'm trying to do a Zen, and I'm shifting towards native garden plants. Most of them started out like Asian plants, so we're getting there. So this was a pretty fun activity for us four to plan. And as we met, we realized that there were some basic values that we all shared. And so we wanted to kind of lay the groundwork for you guys here, that we just want to provide opportunities to get kids outside and see the joy and share the joy that we have in doing that. And to just getting outside and moving and trying new things and making new observation, watching the seasons and cycles of nature, and just opening our eyes and being more aware. And if we can prompt that curiosity in kid and ask those questions, what do you notice that's different? That's the wonder of it, and that's the beauty of it. Also, I learned really early on with kids that the journey in chaos is all a part of their experience. How many people have gardened with 2-year-olds? Right. It's not gardening. You can't yell at them when they just walk all over the peas that they just planted. It's they're there for the experience. And we'll see later, as I do things, it's about the loose free play and doing things without structure and without a lot of oversight that makes it really fun. And getting dirty is a part of it. There's also a lot of social connections that are going on. Those of you who responded, you're doing this with kids that are your grandkids or students or other people. So you're connecting on a social level. And I think that intergenerational a social site, it's not your mom telling you something. It's, some other person who knows about gardening stuff that makes it really fun. Uh, and also for me, the opportunities to share food and have that shared experience. So if it can be a kid and their friend, that's even better than just one-on-one. And as we were talking, we really wanted to emphasize we're not encouraging people to go out and buy new materials, buy more new plastic stuff, right? We're trying to reuse and recycle as much as possible and pick the least toxic options possible. So we're going to launch into each one of us is going to have a section, and we're going to be sharing just ideas. So this is not a how-to thing. We're not going to do step by step. This is how you do it. It's more just getting new ideas. So if we each walk out with one new idea, we'll consider this a huge success. What happened? Oh,
It just, I don't know.
okay, don't hit that. You just use the arrow.
Huh, there we go. You're ready to go. Good. Okay. Can you hear me with this little mic? Okay, all right. Um, so I'm Susan Hoffman, and I've been a master gardener since 2012, but have been a gardener well, I had 100 houseplants when I left St. Louis, when I moved out here in 1975. And then I did a 20-year co-op garden with the Campbells, Homer and Meg Campbell for 20 years. It's pre-digital, so I don't have any photographs. It's all, and then I've done a home garden for 45 years through 3 houses. And this is where I garden now. And so you have vegetable garden and side garden and side garden, but kind of naturalistic gardening. And I'm have been working with a group of people to get the Mountain View Garden up and going. It was fallow for 5 years, and we're doing that now, and it's really fun. We're having a good time doing it. So I'm going to start with the Mountain View Garden. And when we started this year, the garden really, well, they had the wisdom of when they resprayed the fields after they did the renovation, they ran the sprayer over the garden patch. So the first thing we had to do was clean all the grass out. We're going to be after that for probably a couple years doing that. But it had been a garden that was previously worked on, an active garden, but it had been, I think, 5 years between COVID and school renovation that it wasn't operational. This is just an example of the first activity we did with kids. We did it with 4th graders and first graders last year, kindergartners last year, and we had them start peas inside, and then we planted them in the garden, and then we filled that garden, and it was all kid planted, and we just had a wonderful time. It just worked out. I don't know. I felt like I don't know, we had the gardening angels were watching over us or something. It was great. So what we did here in the last slide is we planted the perennial strawberries, which weren't going to bear last year, with petunias. So now the strawberries are growing, and we'll get strawberries for this school year, because that was the first fruit or vegetables, I think, Rich, wasn't it? When we asked the kids, what did they want to grow? They all said strawberries, or things like peaches. you know. So, and this is the kids planting. And this is halfway through the summer. And then we did everything from planting, insect repellent flowers and nasturtiums and marigolds in all the beds. This was the last picture is our failure of a potato bed, and we still don't know exactly why it failed. I don't know, just did. And next year we're going to try something else. Probably Nellie's idea. Probably what we'll do. And then I have at home in 17, our grandson and daughter moved in with us, and we were grasping at kinds of things that we could do with him to introduce science. And this opportunity came up through Master Gardeners. And I think it's a wonderful thing to do with kids. And all the information, again, is on your handout. And we collect water every day, measured water in this particular container that they recommend and say this is what they need it done in. And so you used to get it for free, now you have to pay for it. But it is so fun. We start our day by going out and seeing what the water is in the last 24 hours, whether it's snow or rain or nothing, and mark it and send it in a phone app. And I love it because it gets me out first thing in the morning in my slippers and robe. And it has a multi-day function if you're going to travel, so you don't have to worry about, oh, I'm going to be gone kind of thing. And then I kind of use it also as a gardening tool, a notebook for different kinds of things. No more turkey vultures. The rufous hummingbirds are back because the currant's blooming. You almost always know that. And they're the first irises in bloom. What's in bloom? I noticed my witch hazel the other day. Yeah, other things that are in bloom that I might not even notice if I wasn't doing this. So it's very fun. Highly recommend it as an activity with kids. And then this is because reptiles and insects are so important to the garden. There was some online activity yesterday about snakes in your yard. Well, we have lots of snakes and lizards. And part of it is we've built rock walls because they like the warmth of the rock walls. And so my husband is a reptile aficionado. He loves salamanders and reptiles and snakes. And so with Sam, our grandson, we laid out snake boards. So you see that just piece of plastic out there in the middle, and then out in the middle of the forest. And that's where a tree came down, the orange gate. Anyway, and we got a gopher snake, an alligator lizard, rubber boas, and that's Sam. He runs out and plays with the lizards and looks at the snakes, and my husband notes them in a notebook. And it's really fun and it's really easy to do. All you got to do is be willing to have something ugly lay in a spot in your forest, and that will keep it dry and warm. It can be sunny and shady spot, but it's got to get some sun. And as the sun comes up during the day, and you just go pick up your board, and there they are. It's really fun. It's a great activity, especially if you like those things or you want to challenge your fear of them. And they're really good for your garden. They eat slugs. I mean, they do all kinds of good things. They aerate your soil. They do all kinds of things. I've come to really appreciate them thanks to my husband. Okay, so here's insects. So some kids, like when you're working with them in the school garden, what I found out is that some kids really don't like plants and they really don't like soil and but they like insects. So you give them a bucket or a jar or something and say, go see if you can find some bugs. And they do. And then I would take them home and identify them and then take them back to their class and say, this is what you found. Okay, these are the insects that you found. And it was really fun. So you don't need to have anything fancy. Handheld little magnifying glass. Don't give the over curious kid one in the sun. But anyway, a pocket, a little glass jar. We have Petri dishes, and we also have microscopes at our house, which not everybody has. But you can buy an inexpensive one, like a National Geographic has a little kit that's really inexpensive. I think it's about $40 or something like that. Any rate, anything, yogurt containers. And there's a lot of things online. There's a Picture Insect is an online app that you can put on your phone, or Bug ID, or Seek Kids. Seek Kid.
It's called Seek, and it's under iNaturalist.
iNaturalist, right.
It's free and great. You give it to the kids. It does plants, insects, trees, you name it. And it's pretty accurate.
So I love the Cricket because he's got the kids' dirty hands, and trying to teach them to collect them without hurting them. And this is our grandson with his microscope at home looking at, I think we were looking at spit samples or something like that. I don't know, but we get it out all the time. Okay. All right, so the next thing I want to talk about really quickly that we've done in the classroom, I do it at home too, but and the address is on your handout as well for finding more information. It's a presentation that Jennifer and another woman, Jill Farrow from Master Gardeners did, is doing microgreens. And it gives you all the instructions for how to do it. But what we did at Mountain View is we planted them, and then we had a blind taste test, and it was really fun. So we had radishes, broccoli, spinach, basil, kale. We tried a number of things, but at any rate, with a grant that Mountain View got, we purchased grow lights and materials, and then went into the classrooms that we have done it in. I think we've done it in 4 classrooms now, and had them plant it, and then called the teacher, are they up yet? How far up are they? Kind of thing, because every room's different. I had 2 classrooms right next to each other with the same grow light, and the growing patterns were different. So it must have been the watering, it must have been whatever. I also made little shaker watering bottles so the kids didn't go overwater the plants. But anyway, so we had a taste off, and it was really fun. Kids said, I have never eaten a radish before, or I have never eaten, there's kids won't eat vegetables. And so this is a great way to get them started. Worm composting. This is my stack bin. I have 3 outside ones, and then this one under my deck at home. So I experiment with composting a lot. Anyway, these are really simple to do. Mine is in particular a 3-bin system where you layer compost and newspaper and stuff in a layer, And then you add worms to it, and then you stack something on top, the next one on top, and they keep crawling up in the bin till they get to the top. And then when they have eaten everything, they start crawling. You move that bin out, get rid of the compost, put it under, and it's a really good system for doing this. Sorry about the ums. And but the kids love the worms. They pet them, they talk to them, and they're very gentle with them. So it's really fun. So I've taken them to school. This is an example that Nellie brought of a worm hotel that is simply soil, kitchen scraps, vegetable ones, I assume, vegetable kitchen scraps, more soil, vegetable scrap, soil, and then she threw in some red wigglers. And it takes time, but it works, and kids can actually see the compost happening in their own home. Yeah. Okay. Okay. To what? Okay, so these are a couple of things that we've done at home that have been successful. And, the first thing is obviously the traditional grave in a winter garden bed for Halloween series. So it was for Halloween season. The second one, I have to tell you, was really fun because my grandson is not particularly a plant lover, but he loves the outside and he loves animals. And he decided one day he wanted to build a habitat. This came all out of him. So we just gave him rocks and bamboo and sticks and all kinds of things. And he went about building his own little animal habitat. And then we'd go check for things in it. And he didn't know what was going to come, but that was immaterial. And now we have little places all over the yard with little habitats because he wants to build one. Okay, and then the zucchini. Okay, people don't know what to do with their big, huge, gigantic zucchini. So one of the things that we did is I gave him a drill and let him destroy zucchinis. And then I also gave him a drill and he carefully took out the spaces for candles. And then it became our centerpiece on the table. And since that time, it's a great thing. I give them to people for gifts. I've given it at a Master Gardener board meeting to somebody won it for something, I don't know, but it's really fun. And then the last thing on this slide is the stevia, which is a great plant for kids. Stevia is a natural sweetener, 600 times, 6,000 times more powerful than sugar. And they just like to go out and eat a leaf. And my last story will be that we had people over for an emergency dinner. Somebody died or something, and people were at the table. I didn't have dessert prepared. And I said, sorry, I don't have a dessert. And Sam said, just a minute. He was about 6 years old. And he went out to a stevia plant and got 6 leaves and gave everybody dessert. And we had stevia dessert. And last but not least, winter's coming. This is really fun, is just put water and leaves and sticks and stuff in a base for a plant. And it freezes and it's really pretty, but just like, instant ephemeral art. And then this was the centerpiece was just things we went out to the forest because we have a couple acres and picked up lichens and mushrooms and all different kinds of things. The third thing is a petal painting. So we took petals, picked petals from flowers and got them from other people too, and then did a mandala. And then the last thing I really wanted to show you was this plant called a mousetail plant. It is Ericerum say it with authority. Who could say, okay. Proboscideum. Yeah, proboscideum. And you look at it on the ground and it looks like there's a little mouse crawling. And I haven't been able to find it anywhere. I have it, and I think this year I'm going to start dividing it because people need to have that plant. Okay, and next. You just that, yeah. And if you do this, it'll go somewhere else.
Okay, don't do that.
Don't do that.
Oh, on your necklace.
Oh no. Nellie's going to tell you about the necklace, why we're wearing these necklaces.
Thank you. Thank you. Whoops, we're still connected. Sorry. My name is Anne Schrader. I have been in the garden, like many of you with my grandparents and my parents. So I guess I was in the garden at a pretty early age. So naturally, like I had my kids out there in the garden with me when they were really little. I remember like pulling in Tonka trucks so they could just like play in the dirt while I was like weeding or whatever. Um, and then as they got older and started school and started becoming involved in different activities, I started volunteering. And because I'm a gardener, I thought, well, that is what I will share. I will get involved with gardening. So I have volunteered at some elementary school gardens and then also in 4-H. And I think one thing that I just want to underscore is like, I think that the garden, there's something for everyone in the garden, no matter what kind of kid you have or kids group of kids you have. There's something for the, quiet kid who just wants to read, like make a TP hut so they could read inside of it. Or, if you have a really active kid, like we were just talking about, like there's like things like snakes or like they could do like active things in the garden. So, and it's a great place to just like educate kids. You can like incorporate math lessons and all sorts of things. So I'm a big fan of gardening. Okay, there we go. Real quick, this is our family garden. At least one year, our garden is always changing. I have made my husband hold off on putting in a permanent irrigation system because I haven't decided on the way I want it. The one thing that is always consistent is every spring when I'm starting to plan the garden, I ask the kids, what is one thing that you enjoy eating out of the garden? And I make sure to have that in there. So now we have a whole row of like berry plants, raspberries and blackberries and whatnot. See if this will work. Oh, good. So one thing that I love is seeing the kids eat out of the garden. It brings me so much joy. This is my son Wilson. This is a meat and potatoes kind of guy. Will not touch vegetables on his dinner plate. I was talking to him in the garden one day. We were talking about worms. I turn around and there he is. He pulled a cabbage right out of the ground and started munching on it like it was an apple. I mean, it has like dirt on it. I'm like, what? It just brought so much joy to me that day. And then one other project that we have done on our property is beekeeping. Chenard's is a great resource. They have lots of videos, which I have watched over and over again. And my daughter and I harvested honey and made some candles. That was a fun project. One thing that we've done is, my daughter is a bigger gardener than my two older sons. She loves to like tend the flowers and she picks out flower seeds. But Nellie recommended this, that we enter the Benton County Fair. We enter her flowers, she's entered eggs, and then also produce. It's really easy. All the information is online on the Benton County Fair website as far as like when you bring things in and how many stems of each flower. But it's so much fun. She loves seeing like what the other entries are, and you can win a beautiful rosette ribbon like this one that she got for Best in Show for her gladiola. And they get small cash prizes if they get a ribbon, which is kind of fun too. Gives them something to buy fair food with. And then also something we've tried is setting up a booth at the South Corvallis Farmers Market. It's called Flicker and Fur. The organizers are super kind and very welcoming, and they don't even charge kids to set up a booth, or at least they didn't. And I love this experience. I mean, it was a lot of work for me. We only did it one summer, but it taught the kids like entrepreneurial skills. They had to interact with the public, just answering questions, and they had to do math because they were giving people change. So that was a really neat thing. And then, of course, there's cooking out of your garden, which is fun. We tried some kind of like international recipes, and my daughter got into using edible flowers in some recipes. So this salad over here, it was all from our garden, and she put some borage on top, and then the tea is chamomile, rose petal, and mint tea. And like I mentioned, I've worked in a couple of the elementary school gardens. My friend Svetlana and I were co-coordinators of it used to be Hoover, now it's Bessie Coleman Butterfly Garden. And I just wanted to share, like, I think it's important to have like creative spaces in the garden because it really like draws kids in. It makes them want to go into the garden on their own. I think it's actually called like volunteer education or something like that. But anyway, we had this, the top of a bird bath, the pedestal had broken, but the kids were just making potions in there with petals and leaves and things. We also had little fairy garden figurines that I bought at the Dollar Tree. And, you know, you'd come back each week and they'd be moved around and kids would be, you could hear them talking about like little stories with their figurines. And then the other thing that was really popular were those little glass multicolored beads that you can buy again at the Dollar Tree. And the kids would like put them into piles and you'd see them in like different like designs. So I just loved seeing the kids like, you know, like I said, voluntarily being in the garden. So I wanted to share like a few projects that I really thought were fun to do with the kids. The first thing is milk jug greenhouses. Now, even if I wasn't working with kids in the garden, I still do this because once I learned about it, I do it every year. I usually start seeds indoors. Uh, but once I learned about milk jug greenhouses, I do as many as I can in the milk jugs for two reasons. One, it keeps all the mess outside. And also, if you're working with a school garden, sometimes it's hard to, or, you know, I don't like adding extra things to a teacher's to-do list. So having them keep on top of watering, I don't want to do that. So the nice thing about these is once you start your seeds in the milk jugs, you just stash them outside. And they'll start sprouting whenever there's enough light and there's enough warmth. So all you need is a milk jug, just clean it out, poke some drainage holes in the bottom. And then you get some soil, and I just use this little tray or tub, put the soil in there, just moisten it a little bit. You know, you don't want the soil too wet, so just moisten it. Add the soil to the bottom of your milk jug here, and then put your seeds in according to the seed package, and then just flop this back over and duct tape it shut. Leave this lid off so the moisture, like rain or whatever, can get in there, and you just throw it anywhere. So you could start doing these in January, February, I guess March. It might be getting a little bit late. But anyway, I love this method. Yeah. Planting flower bulbs. So we did this in the elementary school garden. We planted the bulbs in the fall with the kids, but then in tandem, we forced bulbs indoors so that the kids could see like, hey, you know, you planted those bulbs. There is actually something going on during the winter months, and this is what it is. Like the bulbs are working hard during the winter to put those roots into the ground before they shoot the stems up. And the kids like, you know, just really enjoyed like seeing the roots growing, and it's fun trying different bulbs because they can kind of observe like, oh, these ones are like really thin, like skinny roots, and they grow really long. And the amaryllis had like thicker, you know, shorter roots. So, I mean, these are what's up there if you want to come up later and look at them. But just and again, like a fun project. I just like doing it at home anyway because it's nice having something living in the wintertime in the house. And then garden teepees. So I have my example over here. But these are just really fun. We used to do these as a kid. It's a great place to go hang out and read during the summertime. All you really need is anything that you have laying around. You could use branches, bamboo. These I found for free off of Craigslist. These are just like fiberglass poles. And then you can grow pretty much anything that vines up them. Scarlet runner beans are super easy. You can do a combination of flowers and, you know, beans. And then also, if you've heard of nature weaving, that's something else that's fun to do. So you can just get strips of fabric and kind of weave it through the poles, and it kind of makes it fun looking until the vines grow up through it. And then just a couple of final thoughts. You know, like Jennifer was saying, like kids in the garden, you're always going to have an element of surprise. And sometimes you just have to, like, as I say, embrace the chaos. It's going to be kind of messy at times. One morning I came down, went out on the porch, and our sheep were in our backyard, just like mowing down all my roses because the kids had left the garden gate open. the previous night. So instead of, you know, I could have yelled at them, but I was like, no, just gonna take a moment. And I yelled for the kids like, hey, come down here. And we just had a good laugh about it. So sometimes you just have to like take a deep breath and just, you know, go with it. And then also, something that I learned from one of my kids' elementary school teachers is using I wonder statements. And as a, you know, engineer, like I'm always trying to incorporate like science and like critical thinking and when I'm, you know, talking to my kids. And I just love that like sense, or it's fostering that sense of curiosity with the kids. Like last year we had a ton of ladybugs in our south field. And so my daughter and I were walking down there and we were like, I wonder why there's so many ladybugs. Could it have been because, you know, we were grazing our sheep in the south field? Maybe they like the fertile soil. Like, I wonder if it was because of the, you know, weather the previous winter. So I think that's a great thing to do as well. Okay, that is all I have. Ellie. Thank you. There you go. I forgot to mention, one of my favorite seed catalogs is Baker Creek Heirloom Seeds because they always have such fun, vibrant pictures. The catalog is free. There's like some really fun characters. The kids just really like looking through it, especially my daughter. See that guy. But anyway, if you sign up for one, they'll send this to you for free and they ship their seeds for free.
Okay, we're going to try this. I hope you can hear me. Somehow I've lost my voice. It's not serious. It's probably going to be permanent. So I'm learning how to talk with no voice. Anyway, I love working with kids, and I've been a 4-H leader for 60 years. So I love kids. Some of them are bad, some of them are good, but they're all good. But they're challenging. But I think working with kids is great because they're have inquisitive minds and they really don't care what you tell them and they suck everything in. So you can tell them all kinds of stories. Oh, you know, I've had a lot of fun with them. So I also am a master gardener. I've worked for Extension Service for over 50 years. I started out in 4-H and then I started doing food preservation and food safety. But I've always gardened because I grew up on a farm and I wanted to be in agriculture. But, you know, in the 50s, if I would have studied that, I couldn't have got a job. So I thought foods and nutrition is much more close to agriculture. So that's how I got around getting an education around ag, but not, you know how it is. I'm kind of a devious person anyway. But anyway, so, and working with kids is great. So I did the Master Gardeners. I'm a grandma. I have lots of nieces and nephews. And I inherited the Adams School garden. My grandkids were going there, and I went to this garden and it was covered in deadly nightshade and with little blue berries in it, poisonous hemlock, and then there were a few berries. And I go to the teacher and I said, this is a school garden? And she says, yeah, but I just don't have time to take care of it. And I thought, this is a good opportunity. So I took it over. That's 15 years ago. And I'm still working at the Adams School Garden. And we have lots of fun with the kids. And what I notice is that that's where kids learn. You have kids with behavioral problems. You have kids that are hands-on learners. They just go into that garden. I mean, they've called me a bitch, but that's okay. I've been called worse. But then they become my best friend, because they figure out this is where you really learn. So get involved with kids in the garden. It really changes their attitude about learning. I'm a hands-on learner. School was very hard for me. I didn't speak English when I started school. My parents immigrated here, but they didn't have English as a second language and all that crap. You fend for yourself. Well, I'm still fending for myself, but it's fun. So I come up with all kinds of fun things, and I'm a frugal gardener. I don't like to spend any money. See, I'm a frugal gardener and I love it. And I do that with the kids. So here's my first activity for you. These are living necklaces and you can all do these. It's fun for seniors too. You just take a cotton ball and you stick a bean seed in it. You can just go down to Winco to the bulk and get some seeds. They'll grow. Put them in that cotton ball. Don't get them too wet though, because they'll rot. And then hang them in a sunny window and they'll actually sprout. Now these I did a little early. And if you don't get the heads out, they'll break off as they try to get out of the bag, but they're really fun to do. And then you can plant them in the soil. We did this with the kids at school. They all planted them and we put a little stake with them. And then we had a prize for the one that had the tallest bean at the end of the season. So, you know, you can do that in your own garden with the kids. I'm sure something will grow besides beans, but I've always done beans. So that is really good. See if I get this. The other thing is you can start all kinds of things in these plastic things you get at the store. I hate to throw them away. So I started these, which were really fun. These are microgreens, but these are beets. Now, beets take a little longer than radishes and some of the other things, but I think beets are fun because look how colorful they are. And it took I didn't think they were going to grow. So then I brought them in the house where they got a little warmer. I had them out in the sunroom, but I brought them in the house. And then if you can get a little squirt bottle for the kids, oh my God, these are so fun. We send these home with the kids. We did them at school in egg cartons. I really like the plastic egg cartons because you can poke little holes in them and put the lids on them and you have your own little greenhouse. But if you don't, just use regular egg cartons. And then they're permeable, but stick something underneath them, and then cover them with plastic wrap until they start to go. And we get little squirt bottles for the kids. Not only do they squirt the microgreens, or the seeds, but they can squirt themselves, so it's fun and it doesn't put a lot of water out. It's better than squirt guns. So it's really fun. And you can grow these in the wintertime. My grandson and I did that one and he thought it's so fascinating that the little red things are coming up. Now we sprinkled a few other ones in there that should start to sprout. And I put them in front of the window in the living room where they get the morning light. And they seem to like it there. But the other fun thing is that they bend over one way and the day later you got to turn them and they bend the other way and the kids are going, oh, look at that. I said, they're dancing. So that's a fun thing to do with your kids. Potatoes in a bag. I've done this with kids. You don't have to have a lot of things to grow potatoes. I love growing potatoes. And I just discovered you can use these old shopping bags. I was using feed sacks with the kids at school because I run a farm. So I have lots of feed sacks, but just poke a few holes in the bottom of them and then plant the potatoes. Even if the ones you get from the store start to sprout, stick them in a bag. You'd be surprised. And if you've never really grown potatoes, they're so fun and they just little sprout in here and pretty soon they put all the little babies out. And then you can have a digging party. We have lots of fun at school on our potato, but now our potato bed did really well. And we had a contest for the biggest potato, the littlest potato, the most potatoes. So look at those potatoes we grew. We had a lot of fun and the kids all took a bag home with them. Garbage cans work, milk crate. Just buy a bag of soil, poke a few holes in the bottom, cut a hole in it. You can grow a lot of stuff in that. I always remember a little kid that put a whole package of carrots in the bag, and it looked like the grass field. She said, "Oh, I guess I shouldn't have put that many seeds in." So they learn. So that's good. So try new vegetables. I'm always planting something new in the garden, and the kids will eat it if it comes from the garden. We grew artichokes at school. I've got artichokes in my garden. It's fun. They're really a part of the thistle family. They look like thistles when they're growing. That's the only gardening my husband did. He thought they were thistles and he dug up all my artichokes one day. He hasn't gardened since, and we've been married for 50-some years. I keep him out of the garden. Rhubarb. I mean, they're fun to watch the rhubarb grow. Those darn kids at the school were eating the rhubarb raw. I said, you're supposed to cook it. Oh, it's delicious. Just don't have them eat the leaves. So you'll be surprised what the kids will eat if you grow it in the garden. We do a lot of cooking at the school garden. They love the corn. We're always making a feast of something, especially in the fall. When the produce is growing really good. You'll be surprised how easy it is to get them to eat. And I love making jam with the kids. If you've never made this freezer jam, I usually don't promote a lot of projects, but Mrs. Wages makes a freezer jam that only has like 1.5 cups of sugar to 4 cups of berries. And so it's a very low sugar. You can also use artificial crap, but I don't use that. But they just stir it for 5 minutes and it's delicious. With the berries that they pick. So take the grandkids out to pick berries or take the kids out, and then come home and smash it up and make jam, and they can eat it right away, which is really fun. But the Ball used to have one too, but they now have a lot more sugar in theirs and they changed the formula and it's not as easy for the kids. This one's really easy for the kids to do. We always make a lot of jam at school. Corn patches, you got to have corn patches, even if it's just a small little patch, because they can play in the corn. And corn is so fun to grow. You can teach sex education with corn. Yeah. We always do a sex education class, and the teachers are going, oh, what are you going to do? But you can have a lot of fun because it pollinates itself, and the corn comes up in the female parts and the male part. You can have a lot of fun with corn. You can tell lots of stories about corn, too. And building mazes and forts. This is the sunflowers I grew. Well, you experiment. I call my garden Butchered Gardens. Who knows what we're going to do in the garden? I had a package of sunflowers. So I said, we get a lot of wind out, where I live there. And so I thought if I put some sunflowers along here, maybe it'll keep the corn from blowing over. Well, these sunflowers were so tall. My son, who's 6'4", couldn't even reach the top of them, and the heads were like that, and the stems I had to use a chainsaw to cut them down. But I got a lot of sunflowers, and they were a lot of fun. I got a 2-gallon bag of sunflower seeds of just this experiment. We put way too many in, but it was an experiment, and he had a lot of fun with the sunflowers. And then succulents. I don't know if you've ever grown succulents, but you can't kill them unless you take care of them. So that's the kind of you want for kids. I have this story about these succulents. This is my jade jungle. I have it at home. My daughter brought one of these little jade plants pieces home in the 5th grade. She's now 50-some years old. And it has taken off and taken off. And I have trees taller than I am. And they're all blooming in my sunroom right now. And I keep giving samples to everybody I want. So this jade plant, I think half the kids at Adams now have a new, because the art teacher did a little thing, and we gave the story of the jade plant, and all the kids took their little hanging planters home, and they have the sunflowers. So succulents are easy to do. We did a teacher's project. We gave all the teachers a little plant with a succulent in it for teacher appreciation, but they're fun for kids to grow. And then we also did a section how plants produce. Have the rhizomes and the bulbs and the seeds and the cuttings and all that. It's amazing how the kids, and then you see if they can go around and identify plants around your house or whatever, because it's a good science education to do that. And pollinators are fun. Thanks to Dan, he has a little pollinator suit. I have the big pollinator suits. And we had, we dressed all the kids up, and they had the smokers, and then we sampled all different kinds of honey, which was really fun, and talk about pollinators in the garden, which is a fun thing to do. And then you can scar. Oh, I got to tell stories about this. I don't know if you've ever scarred a piece of produce, but always my favorite is to do the pumpkins. And so every year I write the year and the grandkids' name on the pumpkin. And you do it when the pumpkin is just about ripe, but still, growing. And you can teach the kids, when you cut yourself, what happens? You get serum that comes out, and then you get a scar. Well, the plant will do the same thing, so it'll scar over. So each kid will then have their own little pumpkin with their name on it, and Halloween or whatever, and we did it at the school garden. Well, you can tell the story. I told my nieces when they came and they saw the pumpkins, and they were little, and I said, I took a little moto tool and I wrote the name on the seed, and then I planted it. And then when the pumpkin grew, there it was. And they believed me. So they ran to my brother and they said, guess what Tante Nellie did? She wrote on the seed, and look at these pumpkins. And he just rolled his eyes. He said, yeah. My oldest brother was always a storyteller, so we're always having to tell stories. But you can have a lot of fun. You can teach science, and it's fun to watch it scar over as the plant tries and heals itself. And so it's kind of a life science thing. And then the winner is, if you can get the kids dirty, the dirtier you get the kids, the better they like it. And so I always, when the kids are really dirty, when I send them home for the school garden, or they come to my house and play in the garden, then you had success. And kids don't get dirty today. So I think it's a really good way to teach kids you can have fun and get off those darn electronic tools. There you go. All right. Your turn.
Okay, Nellie's a hard act to follow here. So one of the things, I love eating different things. You know, I think you're catching on the same themes we're all picking up on. You know, try new things is one of the big things there. So you can see we have eating the alphabet. This was during Kids Grow class. Oh, it doesn't work still. And you can see this is asparagus, apples, avocado. And we like to distinguish for the kids too, what can we grow here and what, grows elsewhere. So obviously avocados, unless you have an immense greenhouse, are not going to work great. But I like this book. Louise Ellert's book is kind of like the collage kind of book, and you can go through it. I have a number of books up here. A lot of them are from that Kids Grow series. Eat Ugly Vegetables. So these are the Asian vegetable ones. Of course, I had to get that one. But this was a really fun project as you're going through just every day. Now the big thing is how many colors can you eat, right? Eating the rainbow. So how many colors can you eat? How many different vegetables can you eat? Can you eat green, orange, and blue today? What other things are you doing? I love going to the farmer's market and being able to so when our kids were little, you'd say, okay, here's your $2. Go buy something at the farmer's market. And they would get free stuff all the time. It was kind of funny because people say, oh, these kids are spending money. Here, do you want this too? I'm like, really? They gave that to you? So pretty fun. The salsa bar. Oh, so a lot of these projects that I'm going to highlight are the perennial favorites for the 4-H club. When we first started the 4-H club, I had 3 kids. I did everything, right? Now I've learned as a leader, you let the kids choose, and then they have to come up with a budget. They have to get all the items. They have to get the club to approve their project first of all. But almost every year they do salsa bar because it's the plants that they've grown in the garden. And almost every year, it's usually a boy, picks some crazy hot pepper to grow. But Chance was the one who grew ghost peppers. Her grandson was in my inaugural 4-H club, and he wanted to grow the ghost peppers. And I said, you have to put on gloves to plant these. He's like, what? Because the peppers is what holds the whatever super spicy stuff is. I said, no. And they were like, no, we don't need to wear gloves. I'm like, no, you really have to wear gloves. And you can't put this in the general garden stuff. You have to mark it as your own and don't let people just graze through there because you could cause serious damage. But having the taste test is pretty fun. In one of our Kids Grow class, one of the parents came up, we had chopped up all the vegetables, put them in a row. You have to teach cutting skills. You have to teach food preparation skills. You lick your fingers. Go wash your hands. Yeah. So we did that. We had them all in a row. And the kids made their little Dixie cup worth. You don't give them a giant bowl because they'll make a huge amount. And you have them taste it as you go through. Well, Damien's mom came in afterwards because the kids go and share whatever with their parents. And Damien's mom comes in. She said, what did you do to Damien? And we're like, no, did he cut himself? Because we did have kids cut themselves. Damien's mom said, Damien never eats tomatoes. And he just sat there and I watched him eat a whole cup of tomatoes. And we said, it's because it was his own recipe. So I think that's another thing kids don't get dirty. Kids don't experiment a lot with food. So, you just squeeze some lime juice. How does it taste? Nah, adds a little salt. You add a little more salt. So that they're experiencing their own palate. And I think that's what makes it really successful. Another one is making your own salad dressing. Because again, you give them all the ingredients and try again in a small Dixie cup, start adding different ingredients in there and try it out. So I'll tell a story on Michaela Pivick. Anybody follow OSU women's basketball? She comes up to me and this was during one of the Seed to Supper classes. She goes, I don't know, I just don't get it. The pesto I made is just like blah. So we threw it away. I said, did you add salt? And she goes, well, a little. And I'm like, no, keep tasting it. Keep tasting it. So I tend to not ever buy salad dressings, but you have to add more salt than you think, but it's still way less than the bottle stuff you get in the store. Oh, and sugar, usually I'll add a titch of sugar. And if it's too acidic, a little bit of soda. I didn't write it down because it just takes a really tiny bit to just take the edge off. and it will foam a little bit. It's kind of fun. Another perennial favorite for the 4-H kids is herbal teas and potions. I know Anne mentioned this, but a lot of these things we grow up in the Giving Garden and we dry them, and we'll do this project in winter. A great connection story I have is my nieces and nephews range over 20 years. And so during family get-togethers and reunions, I like to have projects that everybody can kind of do together. So my youngest niece, Catrielle, was being super shy, of course, when you have boisterous older cousins and playing games and things. She was being very shy. And I said, oh, hey, do you want to go around and ask people if they would like a custom tea made? And so she had her little list of all the ingredients and went around. And of course, not everybody wanted a cup of tea, but it was really fun to see her going around and making connections with people and coming back with a cup of tea or something hot or something cold. And then her mom, my sister tells me, what she wanted to do for her next birthday. She wanted to make a tea garden. So that's what they went. They went to the nursery and picked out tea plants. So that was super rewarding for me to see that joy and that fun being passed down. So again, providing a bunch of materials for kids and letting them make their own thing. Bouquet bars were great for especially younger kids. You don't want to give clippers to and just go wild in the garden. So we'll set up, you can't see it really well, but there's little yogurt containers and they're all kid-sized lengths of stems and things. And I like to provide interesting containers. Like my rule is go to estate sales, don't pay over $2, right? But things that kids can hold in their hands and will fit in a cup holder in the car so it doesn't spill and go all crazy. But they're really fun and special then. So my husband had some colleagues from Israel visiting, and so we took them blueberry picking, and then we brought them over to the Giving Garden. I said, oh, do you want to cut a bouquet? They were staying in a little Airbnb place, and they're like, oh, I don't know, we're leaving in 2 days. I don't know if we can get the vase back to you. And I'm like, the vase. So she went in and I have a number of them sitting on a shelf, and she picked out this elaborate thing with filigree and stuff. And she's like, can I have this one? I'm like, oh yeah. And it just made that extra special. It was a $2 container, but it made it precious to her. So that's the kind of stuff that I love doing. And also, you're cutting the stems to size and you're stripping the leaves early and getting them into the water so that they're well conditioned beforehand. This is a corsage making class. We did that too, and it takes very few flowers. But the kids, I mean, look at them. They're gorgeous. They came up with awesome things. When my daughter was in, both my kids, my son and daughter, I don't know if they still do corsages for high school dances. Back in the day, they did. But they had friends come over, and of course, in the middle of winter, whenever it is, sometimes you have to buy things. But to have them create their own corsages was really fun. So holidays are always my favorite, and there's a number of projects you can do with kids. Again, it goes on the same thing. Give them a bunch of stuff, give them the greens, give them the containers, give them the clippers, give them the ribbons. You can see Gabby, this years ago, she put all kinds of ribbons and flowers and everything on there on a wire base, but it's really fun. And you can do very small centerpieces, and you can give them lessons on, can you gift this to somebody? How big should it be? Do they have a big dining room table, or is it going to go on a little side table, or is it going to be in their bathroom? So make it to their size and customize it. Our garden gnome theme, this is done on an upside down tomato cage. You take the wires and wrap them like Anne's kind of done on here. And then I do have some extras if anybody wants gnomes. Then you put, depending on the size of your frame, you put the gnome hat on after you've wired your fir boughs and things on there, and you wire in your gloves and you wire on, I always like mandarin oranges. But yeah, if you want, take those away, because otherwise they're going to Goodwill. I'm on a cut down your project thing. And that was a one-timer project, so the kids didn't bring that one back. So of course, as soon as I say that, next year they'll go, oh, we want to do gnomes. So my all-time favorite is leaf printing. Originally, you can do this a DIY thing with gelatin and glycerin. You can look online. It's like four 4 Knox gelatin packs, and you can do it in a small Pyrex dish and flip them out. But they're commercially available. These are about $20. But of course, if you get the major 50% off coupon things, these are a good thing to get. And you need a brayer and acrylic paints. And it's a miracle, right? I'm not a drawer or a painter, but using the things that are just out there in creation and making super simple prints with acrylic and a roller. And you know what? They don't even get that messy because they're just daubing a few little dots of paint on the gel to do it. So one of the lost arts too. So 4-H kids, whenever anything comes up, they're supposed to write thank you notes. These are so amazing when the kids can write a thank you note on something they have made themselves. It's a really special thing. So they're putting the energy back into that. My nephew was over Christmas, and he has 4 kids, and I hadn't really connected with Lily, the youngest. She's 6, and so I had the jelly paints. Oh, the 4-H kids liked it so much we got a school kit of 10 of them. So I borrowed it from the club. We set them up on the table. Lily, the 6-year-old, I showed her how to do it like twice, and she just rolled away and rolled away. And her mom sent me the video of the art book she made, and she named it like Purple Passion Fern. Yeah, it was really beautiful how she put that together and made it her own.
The one other thing we've done, which I didn't get up there, is to use nature's paint color crayons and go around and pick colored flowers and green leaves and bark, and you need to put the bark in a little water and then use those as the color crayons. The kids can make amazing pictures with those, and you'll be surprised how a red will turn purple if it has some. But it's really fun, and the kids have made really good artwork with it's really inexpensive to do, but they have fun with that.
Yeah, yeah. And of course, my daughter, who is a designer, she just rolled these things like they were beautiful. They were gorgeous. They looked like you could sell them in a card store. So we hope that you've come away from today with a couple of good ideas. There's a lot of things listed on the resource page, and I know not everything got in there, so we're definitely open for questions. And come up and look at stuff. If you're interested in a gnome hat and gloves, please come up and get them too. We want to encourage you, if you have an interest in gardening at schools. We have a resource person, Kathy Faser's here. If you have specific questions about different schools and what's going on them, she can address those. And of course, if you're interested in being a 4-H leader, I'm sure Nellie will will wrangle you that. Yeah. Oh, I guess there's 3 of us here that are 4-H leaders. So yeah. Thank you so much.